Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. So back, Zach. I'm Brock Seguin, managing editor, fantasy editor of dailyfaceoff.com. With me, from Oilers Nation, Zach Laing. We are back for another season. The NHL starts today. We've got a 3-game slate. It is going to be so much fun. Zach, how are you doing? How was your summer?
Oh, geez, excuse me. I'm doing well, Brock. It was a pretty good summer over here. Managed to turn a profit on the MLB DFS street, so I was pretty excited about that. So helped me get some more season-long NHL action ready to go this year. But yeah, man, I'm really excited. I'm fired up. I mean, we've been talking on end for the last number of days, getting hyped up for this season. Super excited to come back and do the show again this year. And we got a couple new tricks up the sleeve that I think we're both pretty excited about.
Yeah, it's going to be a different looking show. First and foremost, I think you've already noticed that we've started at 2:30 as opposed to our much later in the day time slot from before. So this is going to be the time slot moving forward. How the show is going to look this year compared to last year is it's going to be shorter. It's going to be more easily digestible. You're going to, if you're, sitting around at work all day and then 20 minutes, 30 minutes before lock, you're looking for some quick DFS answers, this is going to be the place to come. We're not going to sit here and go live for an hour and break down every single decimal point on every single matchup of every single line stat. It's going to be a little bit quicker. We're still going to go over some of the matchups, some of the stats, some of the power plays, the stacks, all that. We're going to give you all that information just quicker. And then we've built a cheat sheet where I give my favorite line stacks of the night, some of my core plays, some of my value plays, and then Zach does the exact same. So we're going to tighten things up, try to be here for, 20 minutes on a shorter slate, 30 minutes on a longer slate type thing. Hopefully roll through everything quickly and get you some winning lineups. So let's get started. We got Scott Wedgwood just got confirmed, so let's pull that up, refresh here. So we've got the Florida Panthers defending back-to-back Stanley Cup champions are hosting the Chicago Blackhawks tonight. Starts at 5 p.m. Eastern, so if you're playing DFS tonight, early start. Sergei Bobrovsky gets the start for the Florida Panthers. It should almost certainly be Spencer Knight for the Chicago Blackhawks going back to Florida. The New York Rangers will host the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's going to be Igor Shesterkin likely to get the nod. No surprise there for the Rangers. Artur Silovs makes his Penguins debut. Hopefully after tonight we can get him a Penguins helmet. And then Darcy Kemper likely to get the nod for the LA Kings. And Scott Wedgwood gets the start for the Colorado Avalanche, as just previously mentioned. Mackenzie Blackwood still dealing with an injury. So here we go. Before we dive right in, just a reminder, today's ownership projections are brought to you by our friends at Roto Grinders. So shout out to them. We've got a link to join Roto Grinders Premium in the description of the video. Here's your slate. The Chicago Blackhawks and Florida Panthers up first. The Panthers 3.6 implied total. Not a surprise. The Blackhawks at 2.2. The biggest implied total of the night is the Rangers at 3.7. The lowest scoring game of the night, or lowest projected scoring game of the night, is LA Colorado. Again, not overly surprising there. Taking a look at the matchups here, that is the wrong tab. Taking a look at the matchups here, there we go. The best matchups overall tonight, the Florida Panthers, specifically the second line, the top line, third line, all have really good matchups. The Pittsburgh Penguins grade out very nicely in terms of a strong matchup tonight as well. Rangers looking pretty decent. So those are your three highest 5v5 matchups tonight. The Panthers, followed by the Penguins, followed by the Rangers. A bit of a tighter checking game between LA and Colorado tonight. When you take a look at the power play chart, and again, a lot of the stuff obviously is all from last year, so early in the season, especially matchups, we say, take it with a grain of salt, because a lot of things have changed in the offseason, especially coaches and philosophies and stuff like that. But on the power play tonight, the Pittsburgh Penguins also have the number 1 power play matchup tonight, number 2 power play last year, going up against the 16th ranked PK. The Panthers come out number 2. So the Penguins looking a little bit sneaky tonight. And when you take a look at the overall stacks tonight, Zach, the Pittsburgh Penguins top line grades out number 1 overall, which I think will probably surprise some people, especially when you sort by own percentage here. The Pittsburgh top line grades out as the 6th highest owned line. So potentially a bit of a sneaky play there for us. I think the one issue with the Penguins tonight is obviously going up against Igor Shesterkin. Mike Sullivan, new head coach of the New York Rangers as well, is probably going to have this team playing a little bit tighter defensively. So I think that's my only concern with the Penguins, but at that ownership, the way they grade out, I think that they're a pretty strong play tonight if you don't want to, get super, super chalky. Igor Shesterkin was absolutely splendid against the Pittsburgh Penguins a season ago. Following the Penguins, you got Florida 1, New York 2, Colorado 1, and New York 1 rounding out the top 5. LA 2 is 6th. Alex Laferriere is a game time decision there, but the Kings lines are basically the exact same as we saw all of last season. And we talked about it 82 times last year, I think, for their 82 games. It's like, how do you really know which LA Kings line to play? Much of that's going to continue early in the season, and obviously with a bit of a difficult matchup here on opening night. Going to be probably fairly difficult to get to the Kings. Before we get into our cheat sheet and talk about our favorite plays of the night, Zach, just kind of your initial thoughts here on how the line stacks grade out so far.
Yeah, kind of a bit of a weird 3-game slate here, right? Because I think at the end of the day, this Colorado LA game, it's got the potential to go off. I mean, there's so much offensive firepower on both of these sides, this season as well. So I think for me, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in that game. And it could really kind of break the slate at the end of the day. So much of this ownership is coming in on this Florida side, the Rangers and the Penguins in these earlier games in the night. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Pittsburgh won, obviously look like they're in a great spot here tonight. I've got lots of interest in them. I have no problem paying up for the Colorado Avalanche top line here as well. A little bit lower ownership than I think I was anticipating. Obviously, it's going to make it a little difficult price-wise to fit all of these guys in at $20,200. But I think there's some interesting value, especially in this Pittsburgh game early on, that we can get to.
Yeah, obviously the Avs, very talented. We've got Netchas in a contract year. 6,100 is certainly a price that I expect to go up as the season progresses. Same with Arturi Lehkonen at 5,600. Like, this is maybe the cheapest you're going to get Colorado one all year, or at least early in the season here. So kind of an interesting spot here. Like, obviously the Kings, very, very good defensively. We pull up their line stats here. The way the charts work a little bit this year, at least on the show, are going to be different. It's not going to be the raw line stats. It's going to be a weighted average per player. It just makes it way easier for me to put together. Don't have to pull the actual line stats for every single team here. So they're going to look a little bit different than if you're pulling your own line stats. They aren't going to be the same. But you take a look at the Kings here, obviously very good defensively, and same with the Avalanche. So I do think that this game, like, I think it makes sense. I think I'm definitely going to get there a little bit. But I am worried this is like a 2-1, 3-1 hockey game, and it's not going to be optimal at all. So I have concerns, but obviously, like, this top line grades out tremendously well for the Kings. It's just, or for the Avs, just a bit of a tough matchup, obviously, here on opening night. So willing to get there. Kemper was great last year. Do you have any interest in the Kings before we dive into our cheat sheet? Like, just with Wedgwood getting the start instead of Blackwood, or is it more of the same? It's like, which one do you play?
It's the same old story with the Kings, right? I mean, LA2 is drawing the highest ownership of the three. LA3 is drawing the second highest ownership, and then LA1 is third. So no shock there, and that's probably my order of interest, as it will be all season long. 20 maxing, I have no issue getting to all three of these lines sprinkled in. If I'm 20 maxing tonight, I'm probably getting a little bit of everybody on this slate tonight. It just feels like it's one that's going to be really wide open, with there just being 3 games here so far. Obviously, that second line is great, right? Kevin Fiala, just an absolute volume monster there. LaFerriere, great shot volume as well. Quinton Byfield is going to be an interesting guy to watch this year. He's somebody I think the Kings really need to take a step up offensively, and maybe just all around here. Obviously, this is going to be Anze Kopitar's last year in the NHL. So I think the Kings are really hoping that Byfield can step up this year and start to fill that void, or show he can fill that void that Kopitar is going to leave.
I got some questions here. Nick's asking, are the charts going to be in the Discord? So the way things are going to work this year is the charts, a version of the charts, 100% automated at dailyfaceoff.com, thanks to our friends at 5v5 Hockey. So if you go to tools, we've got them all here. We'll have a more centralized tools homepage where you can find everything a little bit easier, but you've got your line stack rankings right here. Again, these ones are automated. These use the actual line stats, so they are going to look slightly different than what you see on the show. But we've got matchups. We've got the line stats. We've got the player projections. They're all there. They're all 100% free. So that's going to be available to you. The only reason we're not doing it the way that we have in the past is just it takes a little bit too long to get everything together for you guys. You also have the option of sorting by different platforms. DraftKings, FanDuel, Owners Box, Underdogs, got it all there for you with thanks to our friends at 5v5 Hockey. So there are a lot of different options here. You can use it. Goalie's not showing for this day. We'll definitely have to get that figured out, but working out some kinks here on day one. But yeah, everything that you see in the regular charts is available on dailyfaceoff.com, 100% free. Just go under tools. So that's where the charts will be available to our users this year. The ones you see on the show will not be posted unless they get completed early like they have today. I can share them with our Discord members. So if you like the other ones a little bit better, feel free to join the Discord, and I'll share the link over there after the show. Let's get to our very first cheat sheet of the season. So as you see here, we've got 3 of our favorite stacks. I think on bigger slates we might expand this a little bit. We're still going to talk about other plays that we like, but these are our top 3. We've also got some of our core plays at each position, and some of our value plays at each position as well. So we're going to roll through them here. Zach, why don't you take it away? If people are not familiar with the show, we did a daily face-off, a head-to-head lineup challenge last year, and I won. And Zach owed us a, something, never got completed. So I think we still need to think about what you need to do to make up for it before we get started this year's daily face-off. So if you got any ideas in the chat, I think we joked about doing the 9-9 challenge for the Blue Jays. Now that they're in the playoffs, maybe we could just fire that back up here.
Yeah, it might be an option here for sure. If anybody else has some ideas, let's hear it in the chat. I was kind of a little bit thankful that we kind of forgot about it, and I was hoping that it wasn't going to get brought up once again.
Oh, I've been thinking about it all summer.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. So, yeah, we'll have to figure something out here in the coming days. I really like this cheat sheet. Nick N, please get out of here. I don't really want to have to do the 999 challenge, but
we all
I
want
suppose if there was a time to do it, it would be during the MLB playoffs. Kind of an electric time for that. So, I really like this idea of the cheat sheet. I mean, there's other content creators that have done similar things for other sports and stuff like that. We've definitely been inspired by them. Really, we want to bring something that's kind of easily digestible, and not only for the viewers on the show, but this will be something we'll be posting on social media a little bit later in the day for people to check out as well. So, for me, pretty easy here with the top stacks. I mean, Pittsburgh 1 looks like they're in a great spot. Ville Koivunen at $4,900 seems like a really interesting spot here as well. I think he's a guy who you can get a little bit different with in terms of having him in your lineups. Projecting for just like 6% ownership here. Only had 145 minutes last season, but he really put up some points, man. 2.9 points per hour, all of them on assists. So intrigued to see what he does with his elevation here this season. Rangers second line, I mean, we both like them for obvious reasons. This is a line both you and I have played a lot of in the past. That's not going to change. I've actually got a ton of Rangers bags this year in fantasy. I've got them in Best Puck. I've got them in league drafts. I've got them pretty much everywhere right now. So kind of banking on a big year from the Rangers. And then for me, Colorado 1, a little bit of a contrarian spot, maybe paying up to get a little bit different here. McKinnon, Netjas, Lehkonen. I really like the look of these 3 guys here. You mentioned earlier, Brock, Netjas, a guy at $6,100 whose price is probably only going to be going upwards in the future here. And I also think that's kind of applicable as well to Artemi Panarin. I mean, maybe not necessarily in terms of the salary because, he's already up at $7,700 on this slate, but this is a guy who is in a contract year this year, looking to get a bag next year in free agency. So I could see him having a really big season, a really big start to the year here for the Rangers.
I hope that's true because I had him ranked so ahead of ADP in season-long fantasy, and I have plenty of stocks in Artemi Panarin this year. So yeah, my top stack tonight is the Florida top line. Then I got the Rangers second line and the Rangers first line. I think that when you look at Florida 1 without Alexander Barkov, I mean, Sam Bennett, a guy with just a tremendous amount of shot volume. Brad Marchand coming off a ridiculously good playoff run. He's going to be moved up into the top line. Then Carter Verhaeghe was a guy that had massive amounts of shot volume last year and just got, super unlucky throughout the season. And all that regression hit positively in the playoffs where he caught fire, ended up finishing, I believe, 23 points in 23 games. So he's a guy I expect to have a really big year. The volume from this line should be really solid. They got a really good floor. But this isn't to say that I don't like LA or Florida 2. I really like them with the best matchup of the night. I think Florida 2 is in an equally good spot. I just don't know if their ceiling's quite as high as Florida 1. But like Anton Lindell is 4,100 and Sam Reinhart at 7,200. Those two specifically, I think, make a very nice value mini stack. If you want to include Luostarinen at 15,300, I think that he helps bring the ownership down there at just 7.5%. So I like Florida 2 a lot. I think that Florida 1 is in a probably got the better ceiling just given the volume that they've got. But as you see on the cheat sheet here, like I think Anton Lindell at $4,100, he's been kind of he's often been called Baby Barkov, and he's going to step up into that role, and he's going to see a little bit more minutes this year. He's going to see, obviously, playing with Reinhart is a big deal for him. And then, power play 2 times. So I really think that Lundell at $4,100 is a great play. I don't mind pivoting to Florida 2 if you don't want to, the chalkier at 22% for Florida 1, and just, a little bit lower if you include Luster-Reinen at 7.5%. So I really like Florida 2 as a pivot option. And then, the Rangers are pretty obvious tonight. The top line, again, I think it's very similar. I think the top line here has clearly got the better ceiling. Panarin, Lafreniere, Trocheck, they've shown to just go absolutely nuclear. But Cooley, Miller, and Zibanejad finished the year really, really well last year. And Will Cooley at just $3,800 is way too cheap. That's a price tag that's going to climb this year. I think he's in for a pretty solid offensive year. I think Mika Zibanejad, after the JT Miller acquisition last year, really took off and looked like a completely different player than he did in the first half. So this is a line that I think, they've got a similar matchup. When you take a look at their line stats here, it's actually not quite as good as the Panarin line, but I just really think that they are in a phenomenal spot here, just building off of what they did last year. So I like New York 1 a lot here. They come in about 5% lower owned than New York 2. I'm not really going off the board here with my favorite stacks, and it's something we are going to include. We're going to talk about briefly is just, okay, who's your favorite contrarian stack? Who's your favorite value stack? We'll get to those at the end of the show, but these are our favorite stacks overall. Okay, Zach, let's get back to you here. Let's just talk a little bit about some of your core plays, your value plays, and then we'll break out the rest of the show here.
Yeah, I mean, I like some of these higher priced guys, right? Obviously talked about Panarin, him having a big year here. And again, when we look at this Colorado team, who are the 2 engines on that team? It's Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. Their individual ownership is pretty solid tonight. I mean, McKinnon's up at like 28.3%, Makar up at around 20% as well. So the field's definitely getting there. I think there's some ways that you can kind of build around them in interesting ways here on this slate tonight. For me, one of my favorite things to do is kind of just jam in these higher expensive guys like the Cale Makars, like the Nathan MacKinnons that, are going to see a lot of volume in terms of their shots, as well as the chance to really pop offensively with their upside as well. So those are a couple of the guys that I really like higher up on the list. Some interesting value guys here as well that we'll get to tonight too.
Yeah, if you look at Cale Makar too, $7,500, not bad. He was like $8K for most of last season, so a little bit of a discount on him coming in as the second highest owned defenseman on the slate. I love Sam Rizal tonight. I was going to include him as my one of my value defensemen, but as the highest owned defenseman, it just didn't make a lot of sense. But he's going to play oodles of minutes tonight. He already played oodles of minutes down the stretch. Alex Vlasic out. He's on the top line or top pair, top power play. Sam Rizal makes a lot of sense tonight as well. But let's just go back to the cheat sheet here. Vincent Trocheck for me, like I said, I think New York 2 is in a really nice spot. Trocheck at $5,800. He's probably not the highest ceiling play, right? Compared to a McKinnon, but he's much, much cheaper. Top power play, top line with Panarin. I really like Trocheck a lot tonight at that price tag. Carter Verhaeghe, I mentioned him. Really like Florida 1 tonight. Really like his shot volume. I think as the season progresses, we're going to see Verhaeghe's $6,500 price tag come up quite a bit as well. And then Seth Jones on the blue line. He's going to play big minutes for the Panthers this year. Top power play unit, does a little bit of everything. He'll block some shots. He'll put the puck in the back of the net. I think Aaron Ekblad's like $500 cheaper, also on that top power play unit. So I think they're both pretty viable tonight. And then between the pipes, Igor Shesterkin, I mentioned it, just absolutely dominated the Penguins last year. I don't think the Penguins are going to be necessarily very good this year. And then obviously just the fact that I do expect the Rangers to be a better team overall, a better defensive team under with the coaching change, and really like Igor Shesterkin. I'll just get to my value plays. As I mentioned, Lundell, Will Cooley, I really like both of them up front. And then Braden Schneider, especially if you're playing the Rangers tonight, especially if you're playing the top line where you got Will Cooley. He correlates a little bit with him on that second power play unit. Schneider's going to step into a much bigger role this year after, the departure of Keandre Miller in the offseason. So I think Schneider's in for some big minutes. He's already got we played a lot last year. And then Scott Wedgwood, we both got him as our value goalie. I think he is a great option tonight. We don't expect that game to be very high scoring, but the one thing we know the Kings can do is rack up shots. And I think that Scott Wedgwood is certainly in line to see a decent amount of volume tonight. Maybe not, might not hit the save bonus this evening, but I think he's a guy that could stop 28 of 30 and win 3-2 tonight and potentially be the optimal goalie. So I really like Wedgwood's price tag. I think he played very, very well after being acquired last year, and a goalie that, I targeted it late in drafts and season long because I expect him to get some run here while Blackwood is out. And I think it starts tonight in a bit of a difficult matchup, but one where he should see a lot of volume. How about your values?
Yeah, totally. Like some of those guys for sure. For me, Braden Schneider, again, a guy that we've played a lot over the last number of years here. Really intrigued to see what he can do with the little bit of a boost in minutes here. Tommy Novak, a little bit of a get different spot here for me. Pittsburgh 3, I think, is an interesting, deep contrarian option here tonight. Tommy Novak, Ben Kendall, and Philip Tomasino. They had a pretty solid preseason here. Kendall had 3 points in this preseason. Tommy Novak had a couple of points as well. I think they're in an interesting kind of get different spot here tonight. Ville Koivunen, mentioned him off the top of the show, playing up on that top line, a guy who put up some points last year. Really intrigued to see what he can do here. A little bit expensive at 4,900. I would have liked to see, him a little bit lower salary wise, but obviously getting to play with Rickard Rakell and Sidney Crosby, bit of a boost there to say the very least. And then, Wedgwood, I think is a really interesting goaltending option here tonight as well.
Yeah, Koivunen was one of my bets of the day today. Over 1.5 shots, guy that just is not afraid to shoot the puck, and maybe the prop market not quite aware of him skating on the top line next to Sidney Crosby. Should see a lot of minutes tonight. Had 30 shot attempts in 8 games last season, so definitely think that Koivunen's a strong play. And yeah, let's get to some of our value stacks or contrarian stacks tonight. And I do think, again, obviously they're like the 6th highest online, but I do think Pittsburgh 1 is definitely a bit of a get different spot this evening when you take a look at the goalie projections here in terms of ownership tonight. Sergei Bobrovsky and Igor Shesterkin, unsurprisingly, the top 2 own goalies, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if Shesterkin, who's $300 cheaper, ends up being the highest owned goalie on the slate. And a way to kind of get some leverage on the field is by playing Pittsburgh tonight. And I think that that top line's in a good spot. I mean, the second line, I think like Mantha, Malkin, and Justin Brazeau, don't really know what to expect out of them. So I think it's kind of top line or bust for me. You mentioned the third line, but yeah, I just don't like seeing Justin Brazeau in the top 6, if I'm being honest. So Pittsburgh's probably going to be Pittsburgh 1 or bust for me. Again, the Kings are kind of difficult to pin down. I think when it kind of was all said and done last year, we just kind of always defaulted to LA2. They have the best line metrics. The volume from them is really good, and the price tag is superb tonight with them at just $14,400. But LA1, Kuzmenko was great after being acquired by the Kings last year. I think there's some potential upside. Kempe is probably the highest ceiling player on that team. Or highest floor player on that team, excuse me. So you got all 3 of them. I believe, if I recall correctly, all 3 of them are on the top power play unit together. Let me just double check my numbers here. That would be correct. So that's also an added boost. Again, not a power play that we expect to have a ton of success tonight with the worst power play matchup overall, but the correlation is always an added bonus if they're able to pop one. If I had to pick kind of like a contrarian line tonight, it would probably be, man, I think the Blackhawks are kind of interesting, right? We haven't talked about them at all, but Donato, Bedard, and Burakovsky at just 6% ownership. Even the second line is just 12,700. Teravainen, Frankie Nazar, and Tyler Bertuzzi. Nazar is a guy I think has potential to have a nice breakout season. I had some reservations about him in the preseason and season long, just because his production away from Connor Bedard last year wasn't great. But 2 capable veteran wingers with him in Teravainen and Bertuzzi. We just talked about how high owned Bobrovsky is going to be tonight. I think contrarian, if you want to get different tonight, I think the Blackhawks are super interesting and a team that could pot a couple goals. I mean, after all, the Panthers are missing their 2 best forwards. So I think it is entirely possible that the Blackhawks, pot a couple tonight at a very low owned spot. How about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. This second line for Chicago is a really interesting contrarian option. Frank Nazar, 4 preseason games played, 4 goals and 5 points. Tyler Bertuzzi and Teravainen, 3 assists each in 3 games played. A tremendous preseason for these 3 guys. It wouldn't surprise me to see them get on the board here tonight with a goal or 2. Teravainen, he's had some success against the Cats in his career with 8 goals and 18 points in 27 games played. So I think they're a really interesting, big field play here tonight. And honestly, honestly, for me, the more that I look at LA1, I actually think they're a really interesting contrarian option. Projected to be 10% owned as a full stack here tonight. Not a lot of ownership coming in on Kuzmenko and Kopitar there. You talked about Kuzmenko, how hot he was down the stretch last year after joining the Kings. Against Colorado, 2 goals and 6 points in 6 games played for him. So clearly likes going up against the Avalanche. I could definitely see them getting on the board here, and not overly expensive for Kuzmenko and Kopitar either. $5,200 for Kuzmenko, $4,800 for Kopitar. I think they're a trio I'll be getting to tonight for sure. And then obviously Adrian Kempe on that top line as well. At $6,800, feels a little cheap for him price wise, honestly, because he was tremendous last year. Clearly the shooter of the 3 on that line.
Let's get to some defensemen and goalies here as we close out our first show of the season. As I mentioned, Sam Renzel up at $2,100 or at $4,100 is 21% owned. Definitely a decent value there. Seth Jones, Aaron Ekblad, both mentioned both of them. Braden Schneider, we both have him as our value defenseman tonight. I think that Vladislav Gavrikov in his first game with the Rangers, going to be playing big minutes next to Adam Fox. I think at $3,300 is definitely viable tonight, especially if that game ends up being a little bit, higher volume. Gustav Forsling, really good season last year, just $3,800 I think is fine. Matt Grzelcyk on the top pair with Sam Renzel at just $2,500 is probably the best minimum price defenseman that you're going to find tonight. There really aren't many of them. So Harrison Brunicky, is that how you pronounce it? I honestly have no idea. He is a rookie defenseman who had a standout preseason. He's going to be debuting on the Penguins, I believe, third pair, but also going to be on their second power play unit. So a player that, from all reports, it's Brunick is how you pronounce it. By all reports, was basically their best defenseman in camp. And I think that Brunick is definitely a guy at $2,500 that you could get away with this evening as well if you're really deep for defensemen. Anybody else that stands out to you that I did not mention?
Yeah, I definitely like those guys. I think, Brand Clark is interesting at $3,400 on that second power play unit, playing on the second pairing this year. This is a guy who, despite playing fairly limited minutes all year last season, tons of shot volume, a lot of block volume as well. I think he's an interesting play there, at just 7%. Nico Mikkola, I think at under 1% projected ownership is a fine play at $2,800. If you're looking to get cheap and do some deep dives. Grzelcyk, he played so many minutes last year with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it just felt like he did absolutely nothing. I have a hard time imagining him, finding more productivity playing for the, the Chicago Blackhawks here this season. But I think, at $2,500, fine play if you need to get really, really cheap down there. Those are the guys that I think I have the most interested in. Carson Soucy as well at $2,700, I think is an interesting play. A bit of block volume there for him.
Just need Grzelcyk to stand in front of 3 pucks tonight. That's all we need. Okay, between the pipes, I think it's pretty obvious, right? Like the top guys are the top guys. Shesterkin and Bobrovsky feel good. I don't necessarily think that Bobrovsky has the highest ceiling. I don't think he's going to see a ton of volume tonight, but the highest implied win percentage. So decent like cash option. GPP might not have the highest ceiling. I think Shesterkin's ceiling is a little bit better and probably my preferred of the 2 plays. We talked about both liking Wedgwood a lot. I just, Darcy Kemper, again, a guy that just is not going to see a ton of ownership, but just also not going to see a ton of volume. The Kings are just so good defensively. I don't even know. Let me see if I can look it up. Did Darcy Kemper hit the save bonus like even one time last year? I can't imagine it was often. Let's pull it up. Let's see what was the most saves he had in a game. He hit it one time all year in a 3-0 loss to the Florida Panthers. So just not a super high ceiling, but a safe play most times, more often than not. But against the Avs tonight, probably not so much. Are you going to get to any Knight or Seeloffs tonight? Obviously, those are your contrarian plays. Those are going to be your leverage plays tonight, but neither one of them feels all that great.
Yeah, definitely not. Artur Silovs, I think, is an interesting story, getting the start over Tristan Jarry, which kind of stings a little bit because I have some Jarry in best ball this year. So don't necessarily love to see that here on opening night, but hopefully Jarry will still get his over the course of the year. Listen, this is a guy who, kind of got edged out of the Vancouver Canucks system, but he was excellent for the Abbotsford Canucks last year, helped carry them all the way to a Calder Cup championship in the American League. Obviously, big step up here, going to a full-time NHL role, but I think he's an interesting contrarian play at $7,100. And Spencer Knight too. I mean, if you want to talk about a revenge game narrative, it's going to be his first start going up against the Florida Panthers, the team that drafted him and traded him away. So I think at $7K, he's a bit of an interesting play. The third highest owned goaltender is actually Spencer Knight on the slate tonight. So, but for me, I think I'd rather just pay the extra $500 and get up to Scott Wedgwood. So I'd probably flip their ownership tonight if I was 20 maxing.
Yeah, I think Knight is obviously a nice leverage option against all that Florida chalk. Like, he's a guy that's going to easily see the most volume tonight, you'd imagine. And when I would think that at 7K, like with both Tkachuk and Barkov out, like there is an avenue here where at the very least he hits the save bonus, and Florida wins only 3-2, and Knight's still pretty viable. I think it's possible. I don't know if Chicago's going to win this hockey game. I don't know if I'll get to 17%, but I think that he is viable. And I would prefer him over Seeloff. So, okay. That is going to do it for the very first DFO DFS hockey reports of the season. Please let us know what you think of the new format. Obviously, like I said, we were trying to keep things a little bit tighter this year. Even still in a 3-game slate, we got to 30 minutes. So, we just don't want to be on here for an hour and a half going over every single decimal point, as I said. So let us know what you think of the new format, things that you would like to see more of, like to see less of. Let us know. We're going to adapt to what you guys think throughout the season. And yeah, obviously, if you ever miss the live show, this is going to be posted right after we go live here at 2:30. So you'll always be able to catch the replay for several hours leading up to puck drop, when puck drop is at 7 p.m. as opposed to 5 like it is tonight. But best of luck tonight. Hopefully return with more money in your bankroll tomorrow than you had tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. We're going to be here all season. If you play season long as well, I've got daily content coming out every single day for season long. So make sure you check those out as well. Subscribe to the channel. We love having you. Hat-trick pick. I almost forgot about it. Love the new format. Takes way too long going over every line. Okay, that's a good start. Hat-trick pick. I forgot about the hat-trick pick challenge. Okay, let's get back. We're not done yet. Let's get to the hat-trick pick challenge. If you want to participate in the hat-trick pick challenge, please make sure you drop your hat-trick pick in the comment section below the video, not the live chat. What were we giving away last year? Gift cards, right?
Yeah, the Nation Gear gift cards.
Nation Gear gift cards. Okay. I'm assuming we're gonna have Nation Gear gift cards again this year. I'm just gonna say that we will for sure. And we'll make sure if your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a Nation Gear gift card worth $25. You can pick up some DFO swag. Okay, Zach, you're the guest today. So why don't you go first?
Love it. Gonna go with the bread man, Artemi Panarin. Talked about him a lot on the show. Got the highest raw projection of any forward on this slate tonight.
Grade A Fantasy says, hat-trick pick for me is Fiala or Mika. Could be Panarin as well. You only get one, and it has to be in the comment section, not the live chat. So make sure you pick one of them and put it in the comment section. For me, I'm going Carter Verhaeghe. Been hot on him all preseason. I think he's in for a really big year. Going to shoot the puck a ton. I like Carter Verhaeghe at $6,500 now. That is going to do it for the first edition of the DFS Hockey Report. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Smash that like button. We'll be back here tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. See you then. Thanks for watching this video. If you want more great fantasy hockey and betting content from myself, Carter Hutton, Matthew Barnaby, and the rest of the DFO analysts, make sure you subscribe to the DFO Fantasy and Betting YouTube channel today and never miss a minute.